There we go. So welcome everybody. I am absolutely delighted to host this webinar for Patricia Lee. Pat is an amazing person. I got to know her a few years ago, and she's not only extremely knowledgeable, but she's a truly lovely and warm person. So I'm just going to share the screen for the welcome slide. And then I'm going to ask Pat to switch on her video. Okay, so there we go. We have approximately 20 people on this webinar. It was absolutely amazing, the response we had. And my name is Kurly Marwaha, and Pat will be the person that is leading you through these, through the teachings today. So Pat, I'm just going to ask you to switch your video on. That's all right. Maybe I can do it for you. Don't worry. Let's see. Can I do that? There we go. Try this. There we go. Okay. You are on. We can see you.
I'm so sorry. I somehow, we're learning, so I couldn't figure out how to get back on. So thank you for turning me on.
No problem at all. Pat, can I just start off by asking you a really important question that I think must be on everybody's mind, and that is, what made you do this thing in the first place?
Well, in 2013, October, Joey came to New York for his annual talk, and he did a short intro into Qi Men Dun Jia, and immediately I knew this was something I had to go to. So then I thought, I had never thought I was going to go to Malaysia for a class, because the classes, as you know, are quite expensive. So I had never had any intention of going. And when I heard this one, I knew I had to go to this one. So I told Pam, my friend, I said, we've got to go. But how are we going to raise the funds? And so Joey asked me on the site, "Are you coming?" And I said, I'd like to come, but I'm not sure. So he said, well, why? And I said, because, this is a lot of money. And so what I did was had a conversation with him, and he said, well, why don't you go for sponsors? And I said, what do you mean? He said, why don't you go and find some people who are willing to sponsor you to go to Malaysia for the classes? I said, okay. And so came home and decided I would immediately try to implement what he was teaching us. And the first thing we learned was, in a 2-hour session, what can you learn, was put your back to the chief and your own deity and ask for what you want. And so that's what we learned in that particular class, and that's what I used. And that was the core of how I started the idea. But I knew I had to go. And so it was a motivation to want to be there and learn this information. And I had been studying with Joey since 2007 and had studied all the topics. And this was the one that somehow spoke to me. Kurly, it's muted.
There we go. One other question. That's wonderful. Before we get stuck into the meaty stuff, and I would like to ask you, Pat, on behalf of everybody, why are you sharing this information now?
Well, when I shared these stories in the various classes, there was a lot of responses on the side, the instant messenger, the private messenger messages, and people said, what did you actually do? And I realized that when I'm giving the story in the classes that Joey has me get up and tell the story, I realized, if they think this is so short, they're not going to get themselves there. So I said, I think I need to be able to explain how this is done. So I wanted to give a concrete story of exactly the steps that I took.
That's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so Pat, shall I just take you off screen and share the screen?
Yes, but Kurly, I cannot see the screen for some reason. Because
okay.
Somehow I got on, and then I I can't find where the screen is. Well, here,
Okay.
oh, here we go. I found it.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to take it over to the slides. There we go. Is that working for you?
Yes.
Great.
I see it.
Okay, so the subject is Pat.
Yeah, so the what I want to share with you is the steps I took to getting this amount of money. Initially, when I heard about the class, I knew it was like pretty much $6,000 a class, and I wanted to go to 3. And Joey said one of the teachings was ask for exactly what you want. So I started out saying I got to get to 1 class. I got to get to the first class, and then the next class was in April, and then the following one was in June. So I said, okay, I could do this in stages. And so I first started using the command, putting my back to the chief. Everywhere I went, I put my back to the chief all day long, various different days. I would make this command. And so I was asking for $8,000. And then I realized, well, why do you want to ask just for that amount? Why not ask for the whole thing? So I said, well, I fudged it because I wasn't sure how this thing worked. I said, okay, I want 8, it was it, it was 18, total was $18,000. Okay, bring me $18,000. Chief, bring me $18,000. And then I thought about it. I said, well, wait a minute. There's airfare and hotel and all that. Then I started, the number 22,000 came to mind. So everywhere I went, I started asking for $22,000. And I said, well, maybe if this doesn't work, maybe I better do it this way. So I said, minimally bring me $8,000. And no, I said, no, minimally bring me $6,000, but I would prefer $22,000. So I could possibly get the lower number, but reach for the higher number, because, you know, in these things, we're supposed to only ask for what's realistic, 1/3 of what is 30% more than what is reality. And frankly, you know, $6,000, $8,000 is a stretch in a short amount of time, because this was October and the class was mid-November. So I had a very short time frame. So what I did is I started asking for 22,000 everywhere I went, everywhere I was, every time I went to do this command. Well, actually in those days, it wasn't a command, it was asking. So it's asking for minimally 6,000 to get to the first class, and then 22,000 for the whole amount.
Wonderful. So I think that takes us straight into the first step, doesn't it? So I'll change your slide for you.
Okay.
What did it involve? What we're going to cover today?
What I said, the first thing I was doing was just making the commands. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, why don't you use what you have always done before, which is the conventional date selection and activation of the home. So I said, okay, I've got to do what I know in addition. So first thing I did was I knew that I'm 9 heavens, and I need a strategy. I can't just ask for money and then somehow the money is going to magically appear. I had to have a plan, and I needed to know where I was going to get these funds. So I started commanding to 9 heavens, which I found out I was. And so I would put my back to the southeast at that time, and I said, bring me a plan for how to raise these funds. Have me know exactly who to go to, how to develop a strategy, and what am I going to ask, and who am I going to get it from, and what time frame. And I knew I had a short time frame, so I said, it came to me over the few days, because actually I have a training in strategy, because I have 9 heavens. My whole life I've been 9 heavens. So I knew that I had to get the money somewhere. Oh, this is the chart. Go ahead, you can go show this chart. Okay. So this chart showed the one chart that Joey gave to us in class. The 9 heavens was in the southeast, and the chief was in the east. So I would back myself, put my back to the east and command for the amount. I would back myself to the 9 heavens to ask for a plan. And this was a month chart. In those days, at that time, that's all he could really give us, because we didn't know how to look for day charts or hour charts. So we used this one. And what came to me was, okay, the plan was key. So I had to do these things, and then I had to learn to get in sage mode. And as you know, sage mode is one of these things where you have to calm your mind and ask for what you want. That
Yes.
was a bit of a lesson. So I had to learn how to do that.
Okay, before we go to that, Pat, can I just interrupt you? For anybody who's on the webinar that isn't quite that experienced, we are going to look at the Qi Men Dun Jia in a little bit more detail later on. But for now, we're going to talk about how to get into sage mode. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's the next slide. Okay, so we started out with ASCII, but this is now how we make a command. So the best thing you could do is write out exactly what you want. What I did was, I didn't write it out at that time, but this is for you now that we've been doing this. If you write it out, your possibility of getting what you want is much higher. So mine was verbal, and what I said was, show me who to get this from and where, and a time frame. So what I start out with is, I broke down in my mind the people where we all have to know exactly where these funds can come from. Are they family? Are they friends? Are they clients? So I knew, excuse me, Kurly, I have to get a drink of water.
Absolutely fine. So for anybody listening, just to recap what Pat was saying, when you write it out, you want to write down who, where, and time frame. Carry on,
Yes.
Pat.
So I knew that my source would be my friends and my family was one group. My regular clients that I normally have on a regular basis, and then the premium clients. And the premium clients are the ones that pay you a lot more money. So if you have clients, great. If you don't have clients, you have to figure out where can I target? So you need a target. Those are my targets. So I developed a plan to write 3 separate emails explaining to them about the class, what I would like them to do, ask them to sponsor me. And what I did is, you know, this whole thing that we're learning, at that time, I didn't quite understand it, but the law of equivalent exchange is when you get something, you have to give something back. So what I came up with was, for every 2 hours or that you would sponsor me for, I will give you 3 hours of service. So if they gave me $5,000 of service, then I would give them a third extra time on top of that. So that was my exchange. And then I told them the value of the Qi Men Dun Jia, which I said you would be the first one to get this information. So that's what I did. And then I had to learn how to get in sage mode. And sage mode was basically calming yourself and being in a space where your mind is vacant, so you can make a command and have a clear connection to either chief or nine heavens, or whichever deity you're using. So I had to learn that. That took me a little while. Then I made my command, and when I did, I besides the things that I've told you, nowadays I know that I have to also look for good doors and good stems. And the good stems are the Yi, Bing, Ding, and the good doors are life, open, and rest door, with life and open being the best.
That's great. Shall I move it on to the next slide?
Yeah.
Just to remind people as we go through, feel free to tap in any questions you have to the chat window. If you don't know how to access that and you're new to Zoom, you just hover down the bottom of your screen and there'll be a panel of menus that show up, and one is like a speech bubble that says chat. Click on that and then just type in your questions and I will continue to monitor them throughout. And carry on, Pat.
So I knew what I wanted. I was already making the commands, but I knew to launch an activity, an action, a campaign, I needed a good date. So I looked for all the good dates. This class was in mid-October, the latter half of October. So I looked for the next best date, and this is the best date that I came up with. This was October 31st, Halloween, in 2013, and 3 o'clock. And why did I pick this date? the first thing you want to pick is, if you can show them, Curly, first you always look for red. The first thing you go to is the officer in the dong gong. Can you point that out with your cursor? Yes. So usually you want success for what we're talking about, because this is going after fun. So I went after success, and the other one is I look for dong gong. Can you show them where dong gong is, Curly?
There we go.
It's not showing. So dong gong is the second one right below the 12 officers. For me, I always, on a good date, I will look for these two first, because those together make for a superb day. The second thing you want to do is you want to look for the stars. And right below where I circled in red, boxed in red with the stars, the day stars. It is important that the stars that you pick match the activity that you want to, the goal that you want to achieve. For me, this date had the happy spirit and the monthly benevolence, because this was an ask, this was a wish. Monthly benevolence and happy spirit are two of the best wish fulfilling stars. So I knew it had this. The other thing it had was the 3 harmony. And the 3 harmony in this case was the horse and the dog formed the frame of fire. So I knew this was a good harmonious date. The other additional thing that was in here is the peach blossom. It had a special special day star, and the horse is a peach blossom. Well, you need peach blossom to be attractive for people to want to give you a lot of money, and have enough faith and trust in you that they're going to get their value. So that was important too. Then you want to look for a wealth star. This could be your own wealth star, or it could be the wealth star of the date. If you look in this date, the date itself, the only wealth star here is the metal day, was the wood in the hour. So this was the wealth star of the date. For me personally, my wealth star is water. And you see, I circled water everywhere water is there. I put a $ sign so you could see when you find a good date. If you find the date that has your own wealth star in it, it is much, much better for achieving what you want. The fourth thing that you need is to choose your personal connections. So this is how does this date connect to you? This particular software, Metasoft, shows you where the key connects are to the other pillars, and they are at the bottom, boxed in the red. If you happen, you can look at it now. If you happen to have had a pillar here, you would know that you immediately connect. The one that you want to avoid is the clashes, and the 2 clashes are always shown on the right side. So I knew this date did not, this date was not a clash to me. I knew that this date combined with my birth chart. So now I have 5 connections, which is, I did the filters. So the filters are the good officer and dong gong, good stars, good wealth stars, personal wealth stars, that the date connects to you, and finally it doesn't clash you. So the next slide. So the next thing you have to do is, I knew I had to pick activation points. Those of us who follow Mastery Academy, you will know that one of the things that we do every year is we figure out what are the 4 annual nobles. And the 4 annual nobles are always the sun star, the moon star, the dragon virtue, and the fortune virtue. And so I knew I needed to activate some or one or some of these. So the 3 I picked were the ones in red, the moon star, the dragon virtue, and the fortune virtue. And the other thing you can always select is your personal nobleman. This you can find out on any Mastery Academy charts that you would put up. It shows you what your personal nobleman star is. One of mine happens to be the ox in the northeast. And so I knew that was one of mine. And the other thing that you can look for is what we call the sky horse. But for now, let's go back to the 4 annual nobles. If you look at this 3 charts here, these are the day, the month, and the year chart of the special stars for October 31st. If you see on the year chart, which is to your right, that chart shows you front door. My front door is in the southwest. And I knew that year that the moon star was in the southwest. So when you go to activate, it's always great to activate somewhere near the front door, because the front door is the mouth of the Qi. So not only was that my front door, it was also the sun star, the moon star, and my personal pillar is in the southwest. So now I'm activating the door, I'm activating an annual nobleman, and I'm activating my particular career pillar. So this is about getting money so that I can further my career. So the lineup was superior.
So Pat, just to interrupt for 1 second, what you're doing is you're building up layers, right?
Mm-hmm.
In looking at each of these aspects. So if the Southwest is a great example of that, where you've got the year, there's you, and your property front door. Those are 3 layers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So then I thought, what I usually do is that would be enough, but I tend to overdo it. So what I look for also is my personal nobleman star. I knew that my personal nobleman star, the ox, also had the fortune virtue star of the year, which, if you all know, the fortune virtue star is the star of happy events. So I activated my personal nobleman star in Northeast 3. Then I said, oh, well, just in case, I'll go after the North, because I knew the North had the dragon virtue star. And the dragon virtue star all of these are help you raise funds, and they help you turn negatives into positives. And in this case, I needed some money. My family had money, but they would not be okay with me spending this amount of money for classes. This was not within their comprehension. So I had to figure out how I was going to raise some additional money that was separate from the family funds. And so this was my plan. The reason I picked the North also was because that year, I don't know if you guys recall, the eight star was in the North. It's always good to, another layer is to look for the 8 star. So it could be your wealth star or the 8 star. The 8 star was in the North. So now I had the dragon virtue, and I had the 8 star, and the rat is water element. That happens to be my personal wealth element. So now I'm picking 3 more layers. So this is the stars that I picked. The other thing that happened, and actually this part was actually accidental. I did not know it, but on this particular date that I picked, the month, if you look at the second chart in the middle, the month star, the month chart, the front door also had the sky horse. If all of you have been studying date selection or any of this metaphysics, you will know that the sky horse is immediate action, something surprising, something quick, something fast. So it was at my front door for the entire month. Then I saw this actually much later than the date had passed, that the front door for the date that I picked also had a sky horse star. So this is double. This is the layered effect. The final thing that I didn't realize was on the day, if you point to the top of the left of the chart, Kurly, you will see Josh Shun, the wood monkey. Your cursor is not showing, but it's at the top left. And the day itself was a sky horse. So now I had a day sky horse, an hour sky horse, and a month sky horse all at my front door, and I was activating this particular sector. So let's go to the next slide to show more information. One of the things I always do is I always cross-check the points that I pick for activation to make sure that there are no 5 yellow stars there. And sometimes you don't want to pick a 2, but I'm not afraid of the 2 because I actually am Gua 2. So in this case, I was using the moon, the dragon virtue, and the fortune virtue. And if you, I identify where they are on this flying star chart. The moon is in the southwest and there's no 5 there. Then I went to the northeast and I said, I'm going to activate my fortune virtue star and my personal nobleman star. There's no 5 there. What is there is a 6 and a 4 and an 8 and a 3. Those of you who understand the numerology of what we do, a 6 and a 4 is a combination of 10, which adds, anything that adds to 10 is money. And the 8 and the 3 is a Hertu, and that helps you connect, usually with people. The last palace that I picked was the north, and this is one of the reasons I picked the north, because whenever you see the 168 star, it is really good for wealth activity that you want to pursue. So this is where I then picked this sector, and it also had the rat and the 8 star for the year. And how do you know this? If you look at the center, the month tells you the 8 star is there. The year star was a 1, and the hour star was a 6. I see I made one mistake. I transposed the fortune virtue and the dragon virtue stars. But essentially, these are the 3 of the annual nobles that I picked. Okay, next.
There we go.
Now, this is my house. So what I did was, this is my front door. And I know that the monkey sector, the Southwest 3, has my front door, is located there. I know that my career pillar is there. And I know that the moon star is there for the year. And I see, and then I put sun star, but I meant the moon star. And there was a horse star there. And this connects my bots because the location and the stars are all connected to my personal month pillar. Next. I'm sorry. So
do you want me to go back?
It's okay. Yeah, you can go back.
Okay.
When you can, you would like to activate something near a window or a door. I prefer a door when I can, because that is the mouth of the Qi. The Qi has to come in somewhere, and you want to stimulate it. If not that, then try a window. If you can't do that, then just activate wherever the star is that you're trying to use. Next.
Oh.
So this is the 2 additional points where the nobleman star is. The nobleman star is right on my sink. So you can see Cho there. And I put, I actually used, for this one, I used a candle. So you can use a candle, or you can use water. If you use water, keep it there for a very short amount of time. The other sector I used was the rat sector, which is north. And I put it right by that window. You see where the star is? The star is right by window. And when I put a small water there, I put small water there. At the front door, I put a bigger water, a large container of water. I actually use still water, but you can use moving water. And then I put the candle in the northeast, and there you can see there's a small window right to the top left of the middle of the circle. So I cracked the windows when I did this. And the north, as you recall, had the Dragon Virtue Star, the 8 wealth star for the year, the annual 8 star, and my personal wealth. Next. Okay, so now let's look at the Qi Men Dun Jia chart of the hour. So the Qi Men Dun Jia of that hour was 9 heavens in the north, and this is one of the activation points. It also had the rest door and Bing stems. Now this is one of the superior palaces you can get when you want to do activation. You want a Qi for 9 heavens, and you want life, rest, or open, and life and rest are the more active ones. That's what you prefer, and you want some good stems. In the northeast, I had the earth deity and the life door and the 2 Wu stems. Now, at that time, I didn't know how to find this chart. So I'm just showing you this chart that I believe that because when you want something bad enough, the universe somehow stacks these things up for you. This is why, for me, it was entirely accidental that the hour, the month, and the date all had the horse star in the southwest. Or was it really accidental? Was it because I wanted it so much and I truly believed I was going to get there that somehow the universe provided, and gave it to me. And in this case, now I can look and I could say, hey, you know, I could throw our chart and I could see this, and I could see that the Northeast, where my nobleman's star is all good. The my wealth star sector is all good. I could now sit back, my back to the north, and make a command and ask for what it is I want. So this is an additional layer that you can do now. At that time, I did make a prayer in the north sector while I was in, it's actually this room here, I was in the north sector, and I made a prayer, but at that time I put my back to the chief because it was in, I only knew the month chart. So I was in this room, I put my back to the east, which is directly behind me, and I did my sage mode, and I commanded, asking for what it is I wanted. And then the nobleman's star, I just had all this good luck. And to me, again, it's like, is this like the universe taking care of me? Which I think is the actual aspect of what happened.
Pat, do you think that there's an aspect in there as well that 9 heavens is a high level in your own personal destiny chart as well?
Yes, that's a good point. Because I'm level 7, 9 heavens, and I'm realizing that once you start Qi Men, you start to get into the zone, and the zone is, for some reason, things start happening to you because you're using the Qi Men Dun Jia. And sometimes I notice now, I've been practicing this since 2013, sometimes I'm not even asking, I'm just thinking, and it will come to me. The other thing about the Northeast is the Northeast happens to be my destiny palace. Do you see how everything lined up?
Mm-hmm.
So when something is in your destiny palace, then your probability is much higher. And the earth, as you may know, is the god of wealth. The ambassador star is also a wealth star. Life door is the money door. So was it an accident that the god of wealth was lined up with the star of wealth, with the door of wealth? And Wu, as you know, is capital. So I'm basically raising capital because I'm not, I'm asking for funds up front. And then my 9 heavens happen to be in the north.
Perfect.
This I'm finding happens to me all the time now. I can see the pattern. Next.
Wonderful. There we go.
So now this just shows you after I was practicing this and going back to study what it is I did. I like to go back and I like to try to learn some extra lessons. So what I saw here is I pulled up the month chart and the year chart, and you see the month chart had the horse star at the southwest and the sun star. And look at it had the rest door there. It had Ding, which is one of the good stems, and it had tortoise. So one of the things tortoise is about is to mesmerize people and get them interested in what you're doing. So, and that's my front door. I find that whatever's in the Qi Men of the year or the Qi Men of the month, you actually benefit from that also. So I think for me, I was benefiting from what was in the month at my door, as well as to the other things that I was using. If you look at the year chart, look what's at the year chart. It is 9 heavens at the front door, and I am 9 heavens. And the other thing is, my feng shui Qi Men Dun Jia chart has 9 heavens at the southwest door. So I think that this is some of the remarkable things that I'm learning, and the added pluses that I have begun to see this many years later practicing this this kind of the study that we do. And if you look at my destiny palace, that's harmony there, and Yi stem is there, and Ding stem is there. Yi and Ding are also the stems that are the three nobles, and these all are beneficial to you. So at my front door, there was this lineup of the 9 heavens, and then at the northeast was for the year. My capacity, harmony is about connecting and networking and connecting and making connections with people. And it had the life door. So now here I had the life door in the year, and I had life door in the hour that I was doing this activation. Next. So let's recap. What I started out with is the Qi Men Dun Jia chart. And since this is Qi Men, first you need to find a chart that supports your goal. And as we've said, usually, since we're talking about gaining some funds to attend a class, I'm going to stick to the chief in nine heavens. Each deity has its own thing that it's best for. So in this case, we use the chief or the nine heavens, or both. The doors that I've said are, you look for life, open, and rest, with life and open being the best. The best stems are yi, bing, ding. You can also use wu when the wu is not in the east. That is the only exception. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to look for a good tong shu day, one with a good officer and good dongong and good stars. Then you're going to find your activation points. And the activation points that you want are always one of the annual nobles, possibly your personal nobleman star, and the other one is your wealth element, or the wealth element somewhere in the day or in the house. In my case, I was fortunate to have both. Next. So let's take some questions.
Okay. Okay, so Pat, one of the questions that somebody's put up, Ron, thank you very much, is how long do you place the candle for? So remember, you put it at the kitchen sink.
It was the bathroom sink, actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It was a sink, and what I did was for candles, I usually put for as long as it burns. And now I have an oil lamp, and the oil lamp I can burn for 2 to 3 days, but only use it if you are totally safe and you know you're going to be home. I would not leave it there and unattended. You could use a fan in its place, or you can use music. Some people play music. And the reason I did it in the Northeast, because I hope I'm not going too far in advance. That is what we call an direct spirit location, as opposed to indirect spirit location. And direct spirit locations take something other than water. So this is why indirect spirit takes water, and that is the sectors 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's north, southwest, east, and southeast. The others take, you could do a nail, you could do music, you could do a fan. I just used a candle.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And we've had another question, which I'm wondering if it might be better to do a separate short video on. Ern is asking, how do we determine what the 4 stars are based on the feng shui stars, based on the 24 mountains and the 12 animals? So he's basically talking about the annual stars, the sun,
okay.
moon, etc.
The annual stars, Joey will share these every year in his talks. If you have the compendium, the date selection compendium, you can find them for yourself. But every year there's always 4. This year they are in Southwest 1 is the Fortune Virtue star, and that's the goat. Northwest 3 is the Sun star, and that's the pig location. The Northeast 1 is the Moon star location, and the snake is Southeast 3, and that is the Dragon Virtue. They are the annual popular stars that we activate.
Okay. We've got a question from Eleanor Storm as well. Eleanor, why don't you take yourself off mute just for a moment, or I'll take you off mute, because I'm not clear exactly what your question is, and you may as well just ask it directly. You want to do that, Eleanor?
Hi, thank you, Kurly, for giving me an option to ask questions. Hello, Patricia. And my question was about the water. I think in your wherever you put the candle, you also put the water, and you said you put the water, a small water. How long did you keep the small water? Was it for a month or 2 weeks?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't mix up water and candles. I put the candle in the northeast because it's a direct spirit location. I put water in the southwest 3 and the north 2 because they are indirect spirit locations and they can take water. I put a bigger container of water. I actually put that one outside the door. And when you go back to watch this video, you can see it's on the outside. On inside the north sector, I put it on the inside of the house, and that was a smaller container. So usually what you would like to do is you would like 3 feet deep, 2 feet wide, but my house this is San Francisco. We don't have that kind of space. So I put vases of different sizes. Now, some people, if your house is quite large, you can put it, some people use the plastic swimming pools that kids swim in. Others I've literally had clients that I've told them to get a clean garbage can, because if it's a sector that's not visible to the public, just fill that up, a 33-gallon clean trash bin, and fill it with water. And that has worked amazing miracles for people.
Pat, how do you determine, just in case anybody's wondering, whether you put water inside or outside? Does it make any difference?
Oh, that's a really good question. I always put one outside if I can, and I actually put one outside and one inside. So if this is the door, I'll put the big one outside here, and on the inside of the door, the same spot, I'll put a smaller one. I do that a lot. Sometimes I will use only one large one outside, but a lot of times I'll put one on inside. I'm doing that this year. I activated the snake and the goat sectors, and that side of my house has access to the outside. San Francisco, a lot of our houses are right next to each other. So I put the water on the outside there, and I put smaller water on the inside that's what I'm doing this year.
Okay, we have another question that is related to the water placement, and Angela is asking, can we use a fish tank for the water placement, and does it need to have fish in? Does it need to be moving water?
This is a really good question, because I realized I didn't finish answering Elena's question. She said, how long did you leave it there? The candle I left until it burnt out, or I have my oil lamp, which can burn a few days. The water I will leave up to 2 weeks to a month. Or if I'm sequentially doing dates, I will, and they're close together, I will put the water in this date, and then the second date I will, okay, I'm sorry. That is a phone call.
Okay.
There, turn that off. What I do is, where was I, Kurly? Oh,
you were talking about the water and the candles.
Okay, so the water I will leave for 2 weeks. Now, let's talk about an annual activation. Some people do annual activation. I'm doing like acupuncture activations because I want to do some jump start to kick in. This was a short-term project. I needed to get the money, quickly. And so what I did was, for a year-long one, yes, you can use a fish tank. You could use, other people use large containers of water, and they keep them there all year. Those those are different activation points than what we're doing. Maybe we should do a short video on that one.
I think thank you so much, Pat. We've actually got several wonderful questions. We've got several questions here that I think will be far more suited to short videos. So I'd like everybody to know that any questions that you've asked, as long as they are relevant feng shui or relevant to this topic, what we will do, because we're running out of time, is we will not forget your questions. I've been noting them very, very diligently, and we will do short videos for you. But before we come to a close, Pat, tell me something. Is this the sum total of everything you did, or is there an even more advanced level?
I should actually tell the final ending.
Yes.
So I launched this on October 31st, which was the Thursday, and some of the funds started coming in. By Monday, I had $6,000. I had class number 1 covered.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekend, I got a call from one of the premium clients, said that I'd like to talk to you about this, right? So what I did is, up until I talked to him, I was doing the commands. And then when I went to talk to him, I came to the north sector of this house, which is right where I am. And I put my back to the chief because that's what I knew at the time. And I picked up the phone and I called him. And he is like asking me questions like, how much is each class? And I'm telling them 8,000, 8,000, 8,000, whatever it was. And then he said, well, what about the airfare? And I said, well, that's probably 1,000. Then the hotel. And then finally I was thinking, like, why are you piecemealing this? Just say the damn number. So I said, it's $22,000 total. And then he said, I'll fund you for the whole amount. So
Wow.
It was stunning to me because this was 4 days later. Now I had $28,000. What it enabled me to do was to reach for the 3rd class, which was the San Yuan Qi Men Dun Jia class, which is super advanced. And then the other was I ended up going to China for my first trip. And the funny thing is, I said I would never go to Malaysia for class. Now it's 5 years later, and I've been there 8 times for class. I've been to China. I've been to Taiwan excursion. I'm going back to China this May. And a few of the people on here will probably be joining me. Okay, so that was the outcome. It surprised me. And I realized that I had to go back and see what it is I did. There is one advanced layer which we were not able to talk about today because of the length of time. There is what we call the Shuan Kong Da Gua layer. So besides activating the points in the house that I said, I actually picked specific hexagrams in the Shuan Kong Da Gua method within those points to target it down or get the exact points like you would do on an acupuncture needle.
Yes.
So that we'll do in a subsequent video.
That's absolutely wonderful. Really, really helpful. And this is an amazing story because it's not just a story, it's real, right? Pat, before we go, I'd just like to thank everybody for the fact that they have responded so quickly. When you put the call out, I'm just going to share the screen so we can see everybody that's on here, or at least most of them, because everybody doesn't fit on the screen. There was such a large response. We've got, I think, at least 100 people. So you guys were very quick off the marker. And I think it's definitely worth doing that additional layer if you'd be willing to do another Zoom like this, Pat. Maybe the other side of your trip to China, and then you'll have even more to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it would be nice if you guys could send us some topics you would like covered.
Wonderful.
And we will, maybe you want to tell them what we're going to do with the video afterwards, where they can find it and how they can ask additional questions?
Sure. So, so what we're going to do is we're going to, I'm going to do some logistical things, technical things. The recording will definitely be put out. It will be sent to all of you, and everybody else that reached out. We'll put it onto YouTube as well as the Facebook groups that you've all heard of this from. And in in addition to that, there's been lots more questions than you've had time to answer, Pat, today. Really, really great questions. Like, for example, Ron's asked about, you know, what method or tools or hints can you give about visualization, you know, the sage mode. And I think that would be an amazing video to do, because guys, not only have you got a high level 9 heavens in Pat, but also in me. So I think we could do a really great video for you with that. So don't worry, we'll go through all your questions. We will do some more videos, and we'll put out information about the next Zoom. And I just really like to thank you all for taking time out on the weekend and being so present. And if there's nothing else, we will. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go, Pat?
I'm just like, I was blown away that so many people would be interested in what we were talking about. Kurly and I just got on the phone and said, well, maybe we should try a video. We had not used this method, and so maybe we should, just in case, because we haven't run this program, let's try Zoom. And that was 48 hours ago. Yeah. Less than 48 hours ago. So we pulled it off. Thank you very much for having the faith and joining us.
Absolutely.
Come again.
And enjoy the rest of your days, weekends, and we will definitely be in touch with everybody. So thank you again.